So recently I was watching a video produced by Matt Walsh talking about screen time use and children. I'll let him present the information as I received it.
A study conducted by Singaporean researchers has found that children exposed to screens as infants are more likely to experience anxiety and slower decision-making later in life.
25% slower decision-making to be accurate. Do go on.
Observed infants averaged more than 1 to 2 hours of daily screen time. The study tracked 168 children over more than a decade.
Researchers for the study found that children with higher screen exposure showed accelerated maturation of brain networks involved in cognitive control and visual processing.
The data is from, I think it said like 2012 to 2014 or something like that, which means that all the numbers are worse now. But we can assume that this is an undercount.
I don't like operating from a place of speculation. So let's look at the numbers from today and see what we can find. In 2025, kids between the ages of 0 and 8 spent roughly 2.5 hours per day on screen. By age 8, 40% of children own a tablet and 23% own their own cell phone. Boys spend on average 30 minutes more per day on a screen than girls do. Children growing up in households making under $50,000 per year spend on average 2.5 hours more per day on a screen than children in households earning over $100,000 per year. In the UK, according to one study, 98% of 2-year-olds watch screens on average for more than 2 hours a day. And almost 40% of 3 to 5-year-olds use social media. What the fuck is a 3-year-old doing on social media? Honestly, what could they even be engaging with? What kind of social media is appropriate for a 3 to 5-year-old? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, none of these seem like very appropriate apps for a child to be using, things for a child to be thinking about. And I understand, or at least I hope, that this screen time is heavily monitored. But still, what on earth could a 3-year-old possibly do on social media? That seems shocking to me. Speaking of social media, posting on social media yields far worse results than simply owning a phone by itself, or any other type of screen for that matter. 54% of adolescents who post on social media regularly report moderate to severe depression, and 50% report moderate to severe anxiety. 6 in 10 report cyberbullying, and cyberbullying increases depression, feelings of anger, and makes it harder to stop using the technology altogether. 1 in 4 children sleep with a phone, and those who do sleep on average 1 hour less than their non-phone sleeping counterparts. A study by Pew Research found that 64% of adolescents are using chatbots, with 3 in 10 saying they use them daily. And a new report from Aura shows that 42% of adolescents using chatbots use them for companionship. Now, not all studies suggest that screen time is bad. According to a study from the University of South Florida at St. Petersburg, children who own their own smartphones did better on nearly every measure of well-being assessed. They were less likely to report depression and anxiety, and more likely to spend time with friends in person, which is what we want, right? We want them to have a childhood like we had when we were kids.
Give them a real childhood. Force it on them. Force them to live a real childhood.
I don't know, that begs the question though, what is a real childhood? What does that even mean in today's world? Things are so wildly different than when we were kids.
In what world will your child get to the age of 18 and you'll look back on their childhood and say to yourself, thank God they got so much screen time. If only my kids had spent more time staring at a glowing box.
The quote from Matt Walsh actually reminds me of another quote from the Journal of Education lamenting a very similar problem in the early 1900s. Our modern family, gathering silent around the fire, each individual with his head buried in his favorite magazine. At the turn of the century, magazines were thought to be the thing corrupting the minds of the youth. Indeed, the written word itself was originally thought to be a problem for people. It was thought long ago that people would no longer be able to hold ideas in their head if they could simply scribble it on a piece of paper. And it's not like kids growing up in yesteryear had it that much better. A study in The Atlantic reports that children in the late 1960s watched up to 8 hours a day, or 54 hours a week, of screens. This is Morris and Nielsen data. Minimum 27 hours a week of screen time was pretty common for children in the late 1960s, according to studies. And in the 1970s, only 19% of 4-year-olds were in preschool, compared to the 65% today. There was also very little children's programming at the time. Any screen time kids would have gotten would have just featured whatever was on. This is what led to the creation of things like Sesame Street. It's funny too, because I remember being told when I was a kid that kids watch too much TV. These numbers make it seem like we didn't watch any TV at all. It's funny as well because I remember being told that we wouldn't walk around with a calculator in our pocket all the time, which is hilarious now because that's correct. We don't just have a calculator. We have a high-powered supercomputer with every thought any great thinkers ever had in it, and we have access to it 24/7. Screens are only going to become more predominant in our lives. Since 2021, 90% of schools have adopted a one-to-one program, which is one device for every student. And I think that's important too, because we need to assess how we're doing in terms of education right now. Currently, only 35% of 12th grade students are proficient in reading, and 22% are proficient in math and science. Those are not very good numbers. But I don't think the question we need to be asking is, are screens causing this? I think the question we need to be asking is, do we value education? It's very easy to blame screens for making kids stupid. But I worry that we're not teaching kids how to learn or indeed how to think. I saw a clip recently of a teacher lamenting the state of things right now.
As a substitute teacher, I am encountering a really concerning number of students who truly do not see any value in learning because, as one of the 4th and 5th graders that I was teaching the other day asked me, why do I need to know any of this if a computer or AI can do it for me?
And I think that's a valid question. Why should a child learn to read if AI can simply give them the answer? And I think that's reflective of what we value in our education system. I think we value producing correct answers more than we do instilling information into a kid's brain. If I were to have a student ask me, why is reading important? I would explain to them that reading is important because it teaches you how to think. The goal is not to simply come to one conclusion. The goal is to read the text, synthesize the information, and draw your own conclusions, and then compare those conclusions to other people's conclusions in the hopes of opening up free and constructive dialogue. I don't think learning is simply regurgitating answers, but that's always what it felt like in school for me, at least. I think the priority now is that we need to focus on creating educational content that is specifically designed to challenge and grow the minds of our youth. The problem is that many of the apps and platforms that we have today are marketed as educational, but they don't do anything to address any real-world issues.
At the Daily Wire, we don't just complain about the problem, we create solutions, which is why we've invested tens of millions of dollars into making BentKey.
Matt Walsh works for the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire owns a children's content company called BentKey. Now, BentKey features shows like Chipchilla and A Wonderful Day with Mabel McClay, shows that are designed for and marketed to preschoolers. Matt Walsh is uniquely positioned to make the changes that he wants to see in the world. And I think that's the conversation we should be having. What role do figures like Matt Walsh have in the new digital landscape?
You can put your kids in front of BentKey and they can spend hours, and no one should spend hours in front of a screen if they're a kid, but
I'm curious, were those millions of dollars spent on research and development in an effort to try to create the best possible content for kids? Is the goal of BentKey to create the best possible content for kids? Or is the goal to make money? Or is the goal to push an agenda?
As you say, you shouldn't put your kid in front of the TV for hours, but for whatever length of time they're there, you can know that they're being exposed to good and beautiful content.
If the goal is anything but the education of children, I think it's time to reassess your goals. We live in an attention economy right now, and a person's attention is arguably the most valuable commodity there is. Even the video that I'm responding to. I think Matt makes good points, but he spends a lot of the video trashing other people.
There are a lot of excuses that parents give for laziness. Oh, you don't know how difficult. Well, actually, I do. What do you mean you have no? Oh, shut up. What kind of father are you? What are you worried? What kind of man are you? Like, man up and take their damn phone away. You are an abuser, and you don't need any study for this.
Matt Walsh is someone who makes content designed to outrage people. It is designed to provoke anger. It's a lot of noise and without a lot of substance, which is unfortunate because Matt Walsh, again, is in a very unique position where he could be making the changes he wants to see in the world. It's very easy to demonize any one thing, especially under the banner of think of the children. But I do think we should think about the children. I do think we should think critically about how we're using this technology. And I think more importantly, we need to assess its role in our lives first and foremost. Here's a question I'd like to leave you with. If someone took away your phone right now, could you get a job? Could you contact most of the people in your lives? Could you pay your bills? I would say probably not. I'd say if you could not access a screen for the rest of your life, you'd probably struggle in the modern world. And I think that's the more important question to ask. If screens are so intrinsic in our lives as adults, how could they not be intrinsic in the lives of our children? And if they are, what relationship do we want our children to have with these devices? And more importantly, what role do we play in shaping how our children interact with these devices? Leave what you think down in the comment, and thank you for spending your screen time with me.